We've got some big news about Black Ops 7, ranging from the movement in the game to who's actually going to be developing the multiplayer. So yeah, we've got some ridiculous stuff to discuss about Black Ops 7 today, while you guys are also going to be watching, hopefully, some ridiculous gameplay in the background.
This is totally not Call of Duty Ghost from Wish.com.
But yeah, if you guys do enjoy this video and you want to see some more Black Ops 7 stuff, make sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new, and let's get into it. So yesterday, the official Call of Duty YouTube channel uploaded their final episode for Season 1 of the COD Pod, which is Call of Duty's official podcast. And towards the end of the podcast, they were taking questions from Call of Duty fans, and surprisingly, they answered this question about exosuits and wall running coming into Black Ops 7.
But I can confirm no wall running, no jetpacks.
Oh.
But it will feature an evolution of Omnimovement. Boom, there you go.
So yeah, seemingly out of nowhere, they just dropped this bombshell saying that Black Ops 7 is not going to have wall running or jetpacks. However, the game's movement system will be an evolution of Omnimovement. And this mostly is stemming from the fact that Black Ops 7 is going to be taking place roughly 10 years after the events of Black Ops 2, but it's also 30 years before the events of Black Ops 3. So this game is set in the near future. However, based off of this comment and how the movement is going to be in Black Ops 7, it doesn't really seem like Treyarch is wanting to fully dive into full-blown exosuits and bringing back wall running and having a lot of 3D movement, at least not in the air. Now, yesterday when I saw this news from Charlie Intel, I had my little shit post saying unacceptable with a picture of Taylor from BO3. That wasn't meant to be my serious reaction. I was just kind of goofing around and kind of showing it from the perspective of how Taylor would probably feel about this news. But from previous Black Ops 7 leaks and rumors that we've seen in the past, there wasn't really anything hinting at full-blown exosuits and wall running. We did see some information that was leaked from an early playtest of Black Ops 7 saying that the game would have wall skipping or wall hopping, which is a certain type of movement tech that is also in Fortnite. And depending on how Black Ops 7 may or may not have some kind of movement like that integrated into the game, I don't really feel like it's going to be that big of a deal. The premise behind wall hopping is that you would basically jump towards a wall and then you would be able to kind of have a double jump, except you're just kind of jumping off of the wall, which in a sense is kind of like having a double jump, but it doesn't fully commit to having an exosuit. And the other thing too is that it's also situational. You have to have a wall near you to be able to jump off of in the first place. So it's going to be a little bit more situational. It might not be as useful, but that's kind of the whole point, is that they're not fully diving into having exosuits and having people fly and jump all over the place. And it's based off of what Activision officially said on the Call of Duty podcast. That does kind of line up with being an evolution of the existing Omnimovement system. And if we take a step back for a second and just kind of evaluate the movement system in Black Ops 6, where exactly are we at with movement in Black Ops 6? Well, if you look at the typical match, or at least really sweaty ones, Black Ops 6 movement is honestly kind of a letdown. Now, don't get me wrong, Omnimovement on its own is pretty unique. It's a nice little addition to Black Ops 6, but when it comes to how people actually play the game in practice, I'm sure you guys already know when it comes to BO6 Multiplayer and even Warzone, most people just kind of slide all over the place. Slide spam is very much an issue with the game, and I want to say that I think they've done some tweaks and they've tried to like pull back on it, but ultimately, sliding around corners is still basically the meta in the game. Sliding around corners and slide spamming is basically the meta. It's the default playstyle that a lot of people, and especially tryhards, like to default to, especially because you can slide in every single direction. You don't just have to slide forwards, you can slide sideways, you can go backwards, you can jump into a slide and carry even more momentum. And obviously there's a lot of other ways to play Black Ops 6 as well. You don't have to slide spam, you know, you can jump around corners if you want to, you can be mounting in the back and camping if you want. And because of Omnimovement, we have one of the most fun ways to play the game, which is basically dolphin diving in any direction that you want to. Unfortunately, that's one of the least efficient ways to play, and more often than not, people who are slide spamming will just beat you in a lot of those gunfights. But overall, the takeaway is that Black Ops 6's movement, while it does have this unique Omnimovement system, it unfortunately has kind of trapped itself in a box, with slide spam being one of the main ways that people actually move around the map. So hopefully with Black Ops 7, they will try to find a way to truly evolve the existing Omnimovement system and hopefully have us doing more than just sliding around every single corner like we do in Black Ops 6. But aside from Omnimovements getting an evolution going from Black Ops 6 into Black Ops 7, we did also see leaks and rumors that body shields will also be returning, and there is potentially going to be an evolution on that front as well, although it hasn't been officially confirmed or talked about by Activision, and it definitely wasn't covered in that podcast. But from the previous Black Ops 7 early playtest that someone had leaked information about, it did say that body shields are returning now with the ability to, and that's where the picture kind of got cut off, but then it said, and kick their body towards your enemies. So yeah, we don't know what the first part of that body shield change might be, mobility. However, the second bit does say that you can kick their body towards your enemies. So maybe there's the potential to kind of like exo kick them at enemies and then also get multi-kills. I don't know. That sounds kind of crazy. Honestly, if that were true, that sounds pretty fucking awesome. But this is just speculation. We don't know exactly how that's going to pan out. But since Black Ops 7 is a game that's taking place in the near future, and there was this mention of networked perks, there is a possibility, a chance, that there could be some kind of other features in the multiplayer that could allow for more dynamic gameplay. This could take the form of the networked perks, which has been leaked already, or it could be taking the form of specialists coming back in Black Ops 7, which I feel like is way more unlikely because that hasn't been leaked. And since this networked perks feature has been leaked, I feel like that would be way more likely. I don't necessarily want to fully rule out the idea of specialists coming back, but since this game is an in-between of Black Ops 2 and Black Ops 3, and based off of a lot of things that we've seen so far about the Black Ops 7 campaign especially, it's really sounding like Black Ops 7 is aiming to be more like Black Ops 2 and not so much like Black Ops 3, which I do think has some pros and cons. The first pro is that we're in the year of 2025. This is the year of Black Ops 2. It's when a lot of the events of the game took place, and even though we're most likely and unfortunately not getting a full remaster of Black Ops 2, which I know a lot of people have been begging for, I want to say that it's safe to assume that Black Ops 7 is going to be paying a lot of homage to Black Ops 2 with this next game. So yeah, even though Black Ops 7 isn't going to be Black Ops 2 remastered, they are most likely going to be taking a lot of inspiration, and I would imagine that when it comes to either like the weapons or the maps in the game, I feel like there is going to be a lot of inspiration and possibly even some remakes or remasters of content from Black Ops 2 put into Black Ops 7. And that would make a lot of sense, especially because the game is taking place 10 years after the events of Black Ops 2. And one of the biggest pros, and I've talked about this before, is that it really does seem like they are potentially trying to ease us into going from more traditional Call of Duty movement into advanced movement. Ever since Modern Warfare 2019, it feels like we've basically been seeing a recreation of the golden era for a new generation. At least that's what they're attempting to do. Just think about it like this. Modern Warfare 2019 is basically the newer generation's Call of Duty 4. Black Ops Cold War is essentially Black Ops 1, and Vanguard was a sad attempt to be World at War. Instead of remastering the older classic Call of Duty games and running the risk of either disappointing fans or straight up just ruining those games, they've taken a completely different route with Call of Duty altogether, and instead, they're basically soft rebooting the entire franchise. And Black Ops 7 is essentially supposed to be this newer generation's Black Ops 2. And even though I think a lot of us who have been playing the franchise for a very long time would argue that the golden era of the past generation is way better than anything that we have post Modern Warfare 2019, even I will admit that it feels like they're at least handling movements better than they did back then. If you really think about it, the evolution of movement coming from like Call of Duty 4 up until Call of Duty Ghosts, honestly, not much changed. You know, Black Ops 1 introduced dolphin diving back then, and then Call of Duty Ghosts added the slide for the first time in a Call of Duty game, as well as adding mounting. But aside from that, the movement itself was pretty traditional and it wasn't all that crazy. It wasn't until we transitioned from Call of Duty Ghosts into Advanced Warfare that things really drastically changed, and that's why a lot of people were starting to get really mad with Call of Duty back then. It's because the changes in movements and core gameplay were so drastic instead of trying to ease us into this. At least with what we have now going from Modern Warfare 2019 up until Black Ops 7, present day, it really does feel like these newer Call of Duty games are trying to ease us more gently into these movement changes and the movement systems. I mean, look at Black Ops 6. Omnimovement is obviously a pretty big change. However, it's not quite as drastic as going from Call of Duty Ghosts to Advanced Warfare, and Advanced Warfare basically had exo Omnimovement, where you could double jump into the air and you could exo dash in any direction, and then of course we also had exo abilities like cloaking and hover. There were a lot of different movement changes back then. And now if we look at Black Ops 6 going into Black Ops 7, they're not going to be throwing exosuits or wall running at us, but instead there's going to be an evolution of Omnimovement. We just don't know exactly what it's going to be, but it doesn't really sound like it's going to be anything too drastic or too different. Which does bring us to the cons, and I think the biggest thing is that people might also feel like they're not making big enough changes going from BO6 to BO7, which is so interesting because even back then, myself included, a lot of people were not necessarily super thrilled or happy about exosuits being in these Call of Duty games. And that's what makes this so strange, because when Charlie Intel put out that tweet, again, I know I was joking with the picture of Taylor saying unacceptable, but there were genuinely a lot of replies to that tweet of people that were just kind of upset that the next Call of Duty game is not going to be more futuristic and not have exosuits, which sounds crazy because obviously some people were very disappointed back then with, you know, Advanced Warfare, BO3, and Infinite Warfare having this futuristic setting and having this type of movement. But I think realistically what was going on back then is we were getting too much of the same back to back to back. We had exosuits for 3 straight years, and there were no buffer games. There were no games in between that could give us some breathing room from this type of gameplay. And that is the real reason why people were upset with the exosuits back then. It wasn't necessarily their existence, it was just that we kept getting too much of the same, which ironically enough is also kind of happening with these newer COD games. It feels like we've basically been getting spammed with Modern Warfare and Black Ops games for the last 5 or 6 years, which is basically true with the exception of Vanguard. And I think the reason why some COD fans might be kind of upset or disappointed that this next game, BO7, is not going to be more futuristic or have exosuits is because they want to see something new. They want to see something different and unique, or at the very least something that will shake up the gameplay a little bit more than what we've had for the last 5 or 6 years. And again, I've covered this kind of information in past videos, but as a quick refresher, it is currently rumored that next year's Call of Duty game is going to be Modern Warfare 4, developed by Infinity Ward, and then in 2027, that game is going to be led by Sledgehammer, and it is currently rumored to possibly be Advanced Warfare 2. And at least when it comes to discussions about movement in Call of Duty, it's really interesting because Infinity Ward apparently is not too thrilled about having to incorporate Omnimovement into Modern Warfare 4, but they will most likely have to do it anyway because there needs to be a natural progression of the movement systems. It would really not make a lot of sense for them to tone things back coming from Black Ops 7, and then we have Advanced Warfare 2 in 2027, and then the movement system goes absolutely berserk. But speaking of Sledgehammer Games, there could be some insanely good news for Black Ops 7's multiplayer if this ends up being true. There's currently a rumor coming from the Ghost of Hope saying that Sledgehammer Games is pretty much doing the multiplayer at this point for Black Ops 7, implying the idea that Sledgehammer Games could be the lead dev for Black Ops 7's multiplayer. Now again, take that information with a grain of salt, but if this ends up being true, we could be getting an absolute peak multiplayer this year with Black Ops 7. Now I'll try to keep this as brief as possible, but some people just don't understand this. When we had Modern Warfare 2, Infinity Ward basically didn't listen to the community, and the gameplay was extremely stale for Modern Warfare 2. We were being drip-fed an abysmal amount of content, and then Modern Warfare 3 was announced, and that was the game that was directly following Modern Warfare 2. It was the first time in COD franchise history that we had back-to-back releases of the same subgenre. And unfortunately, a lot of people were calling Modern Warfare 3 a $70 DLC, and that's what they kept labeling it. It became a massive meme, and it really didn't help that they had early access campaign, and then the campaign ended up being really short, and that was disappointing a lot of people as well. However, when it came to the multiplayer specifically, Sledgehammer Games absolutely fucking cooked, and it's one of the best Call of Duty multiplayers we've had in recent years, at least if you're one of those players that stuck with it from the launch until the very end. When it comes to Call of Duty live service, Sledgehammer Games absolutely nailed it. Every single season was improving, it was getting better, we were getting more content than ever before, we had weekly aftermarket parts, we had weekly challenges, we had tons of events that were getting us universal camos. They were actually listening to the community, and they were listening to player feedback and making changes that were improving the multiplayer experience. They were constantly keeping things fresh with new game modes as well. I mean, they even had parkour. We basically had BO3 free run getting added into the game at one point. Roughly halfway into Modern Warfare 3's life cycle, they also added weapon prestige camos where you could grind extra XP to get some really rare and exclusive camos in the game. And every single season, there was a new weapon prestige camo that you could be grinding for. And when it comes to Modern Warfare 3's maps, again, Sledgehammer absolutely killed it. We had all of the original Modern Warfare 2 maps fully remastered and all available at launch. And then every single season, we were getting multiple maps that ultimately just played out really well. They were really good. And really the only criticism I have of Sledgehammer Games' handling of multiplayer was that we didn't get more war maps. I loved that they brought back war. However, I wish that we got more of that. We only had 2 maps throughout the entire life cycle. And every single season, I was getting so excited. I was really hoping that there was eventually going to be a new war map, but unfortunately that never came to fruition. But hopefully they could learn from that experience. They could take that criticism. And if Sledgehammer Games really is the lead dev for Black Ops 7, then I really do think we're getting the better version of Black Ops 6's multiplayer, which again, I know that some people might not want to have to pay for that, but at this point for Call of Duty, you could also just get Game Pass Ultimate on PC or Xbox, and you don't have to pay the full price of the game. So that's one way to look at it. At this point, we still don't know if Treyarch is going to be taking full credit for everything, and if Sledgehammer Games is going to be like a ghost dev in the background doing all of the heavy lifting for multiplayer. We don't know if they're going to be the ones that are credited with multiplayer, or if they're just going to be working behind the scenes. But if this leak / rumor is true about Sledgehammer working on BO7's multiplayer, then it could be an absolute banger. But again, we'll just have to wait and see. Again, this Friday is the official date of that original like Raul Menendez Black Ops 2 CORDIS Dia video, and people are speculating that there could be a bigger reveal coming for Black Ops 7 very soon. So stay tuned for that, and as you guys know, I'll definitely be covering that here on the channel. But yeah, that's good to it for this video. Thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed watching me cover the latest Black Ops 7 news. If you guys did enjoy this video and you want to see some more Black Ops 7 stuff, make sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new. See you guys later.
Outcome. Train good.